Alright, so I recently finished up the Amazon Like a Dragon Yakuza series, and I've actually been playing through 4, so thought I would throw some gameplay from that in the background while we talk about the series. Something you should know before starting the series that I wasn't aware of was that Amazon was given a lot of creative freedom. Like, key characters, locations, and some events are intact, but that's about it. And with that kind of approach, I just don't get it. Like, I get wanting to use the Yakuza Like a Dragon name to bring in an established fan base, but when you really loosely follow the events of a story that's been around a while, has nostalgia, a lot of people like it, I mean, you better make sure it's really damn good and potentially better than the original. And if you don't want to faithfully adapt it, I'm not even saying that's an issue either, but if you're going to change so much, why even have this be another retelling of Kiryu's story? Why not have it be, I don't know, someone else from Sunflower Orphanage? Or I mean, anyone who's played the games knows that there's tons of interesting people roaming around Kamurocho. And then just have major characters like Kiyu, Majima, or others, depending on when you want events to take place. Maybe have them in more supporting roles or just a cameo or something. That way you're not tied as much to the comparison to the original, which, like I said, I feel like that's immediately playing on hard mode if you're not just going to follow the pre-established script that people already like. That being said, I will admit there was one standout episode in this series. If you're going to watch one episode, watch episode 5. Episode 5 was the one time in the series that I actually kind of liked some of the changes they made and was interested to see where they can go with this new approach. And it honestly kind of made, like, honestly, I got into the show at that point. I was only planning to maybe watch, I don't know, half an episode, but I wound up finishing the whole series that night. And it's like you see the potential there with the people involved to make something really good. And like I said, most of it, in my opinion, was mediocre at best. And then episode 6, particularly because it came off of 5, and episode 6 is the finale too, by the way, was just really disappointing because they didn't really stick the landing, in my opinion, from some of the jumps they made in episode 5 and throughout the series. The only good part of episode 6 was watching, a big fight break out and you just see Majima pull up, 2 baseball bats in hand, smile on his face, going wild in a big fight. But part of that moment too may have also been that until that point, episodes are 40 minutes about. Majima was probably only in one episode for 10 to 15 minutes, less than half, I believe. And that 10 to 15 minutes was disappointing because, once again, they changed the backstory for a character I really liked, and I didn't like it more than the one they had already established. In general, I felt like the performances from the cast was good. I'm not one to judge that too harshly. I just don't watch enough stuff to really be able to spot criticisms too much. But whatever department is in charge of character appearances, I'm kind of disappointed in them. I mean, a lot of the characters do look like how you would expect, but there's certain key details with certain characters, like, why is the florist the only one whose mustache got brought over to the show? Kazama and Dojima had them in the game. It's a pretty standout feature, I guess. And then I guess Shimano was in the show, but it was like each time they brought him up, I had no idea who they were talking about because, of course, from the games, I'm looking for a big bald guy in a purple suit. And there's no one fitting that description in the show. I don't know if maybe it was too much of a standout design for a minor character in the show, but to me it just seems like baffling decisions that didn't really need to happen. I do want to dive into more specifics with the show, so I'm going to give a spoiler alert right now. I am going to be going into more detail on that, as well as the Yakuza games chronologically through 4, since that's where I'm at with the series now. But I'm not planning to go too deep, but there might be some details. But yeah, at the very end of the series, they kind of tease a season 2. I don't know if it'll actually happen or not, but let's be real. A season 2 tease should have been Ryuji Guda taking over the reins of the Omni Alliance, or starting to make his move to get power. Either that, or maybe you have Sayama and or her father starting an investigation in, was it called the Jinwan Mafia or something like that? That was pretty big in the second game. That kind of came back. I might be wrong about that. I apologize for any mispronunciations throughout this, but yeah, instead they sort of tease a conflict between Kazama and Kiryu, which is another thing too. You're probably thinking, wait, didn't he die at the end of the first one, Kazama? Nope, a lot of characters who died in the first game are still alive. Hell, there's a couple that are in bad shape, but theoretically they never pronounced them dead. They were getting medical attention at the end. They could theoretically move forward with those characters if they really wanted. One thing I will admit that I feel like the show did well was how they approached Yumi's sister and Nishiki's sister. So you might be thinking, again, too, if you've completed the first game, Yumi doesn't have a sister. That was a alias she took on for a while to conceal her identity. Well, here they have the sister turn into an actual character. And I think that's an interesting approach, especially if you're going to retell something. It's a fun twist with some potential. And like I said, I think they gave her a different name in the show. But yeah, actually being introduced properly, because I think she was always off screen in the games, to Nishiki's sister, to have her fate, hit a little deeper was really smart as well. Nishiki, though. Nishiki, honestly, is one of my favorite characters from the games. And I remember going into that last episode, they were kind of teasing a connection between Nishiki and the demon, who's this serial killer that's going around. And all I could think of going into that episode is, please don't let Nishiki be the demon. Please don't let Nishiki be the demon, because not that it's impossible, but I thought it would be really difficult to really go a direction I would like if Nishiki was the demon. And sure enough, he was. Rather than the koi and some of the symbolism of that, which is something I really like in the games too, the symbolism of the back tattoos, which wasn't a super big thing here. But that's also something that's kind of, not consistently a big factor, I guess, to a certain degree. Could sometimes be put in the background a bit in the games, and maybe even some of the stuff goes over people's heads. It probably would have gone through my head too if I didn't, read stuff online, but I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity to not do more with that aspect of the series. But yeah, I think Nishiki is such a great character because, I mean, he's a villain, but seeing his downfall and how he got there, why he's acting the way he is, you could still kind of relate. I don't know if that's the best word, but you could kind of I don't know. It doesn't feel one dimensional or, just like I'm the bad guy doing bad things because I can. And to me, some of those characters are some of the most compelling and just fun to see develop. But here, like I said, they make it more one dimensional where Nishiki just is there, like, yeah, his backstory didn't change as much. There's still sort of the downfall, but there's just a big difference here in the direction that they went. I mean, Nishiki's ruthless, will do whatever it takes to accomplish his goals, but his goal is for power because of how powerless he was for a really long time in a rough situation. Here, he's just more, I want to watch the world burn and take out as many people as I can because I got screwed over, which I feel just kind of misses the point and just isn't as good of a character too. And especially coming after episode 5 where they could have added even more depth to Nishiki's character considering what transpired, just sort of the new plot points they introduced. I don't know, that's just my interpretation. I'm sure some people may be fine with it, or maybe they interpret it differently than I do. But that's just sort of my take. Do I recommend the series? I mean, it was entertaining enough, even with my frustrations. I don't feel like I was ever bored with it. But like I said, besides episode 5, I was never really too happy or very entertained with what I was consuming. But yeah, hopefully if they get another shot, it's, more like episode 5 than the rest of the series. Oh, don't worry if you're compelled by the gameplay footage. I realize it's getting intense here. I've got a sliver of health left on Komaki, but he's really kicking my ass here. Don't worry, I do get him, in case you were curious. I think, yeah, he does get me into flashing, though. I forget if it was one of the charge attacks or a more standard attack that I finally got him at. Maybe I'll just kind of let this play for, because I think it happens really soon here. We will, be talking about Yakuza 4 itself very soon. I'm mostly done now, just kind of finishing up some side content and then completing the final mission. They kind of give you a little opening. I don't know if there'll be any post game content. Oh, it just was a regular punch there, but yeah, that's it.